Hey guys! Tonight we're stepping into a story that begins with a whisper, literally. Imagine walking past a row of shuttered storefronts on the edge of a dying town. There's a broken donut sign flickering half a neon O, a payphone that hasn't worked since disco was popular, and then you notice it. A narrow corridor behind the donut shop, lit by a single humming fluorescent bulb. At the end of that hallway, a dusty glass door. No sign, no name. Just a faint smell of leather, mildew, and something else, like old secrets wearing polished shoes. You step inside, and every employee turns to look at you, without blinking, before going back to their work in complete silence. Not a sound. Above a whisper, not ever. Oh, and did I mention the front register has a typewriter instead of a cash register? Yes. You're already in too deep. You'd never survive this place if you were looking for something as modern as, say, a touchscreen. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, let me know in the comments, what time is it where you are, and where exactly are you listening from tonight? Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You push the door open, and the bell above it doesn't jingle. It lets out a low, almost apologetic sigh. The carpet under your shoes is threadbare and mossy in texture, as if it's grown roots and become part of the building itself. The smell intensifies. Old glue, shoe polish, aged leather, and something vaguely electrical. A woman behind the counter greets you with a nod, never parting her lips. She slides a small clipboard across the glass surface. The pen is tied to it with a fraying shoelace. The paper? Yellowed. Lined. Your name goes on the bottom of a list with dates next to it. Some from this year, most from decades ago. One entry, and reads, Octavia, 1953, returned. You scribble your name and suddenly, quietly, a narrow door opens behind the counter. A young man gestures for you to follow. You notice his shoes, classic Oxfords, no brand label, perfectly shined. As you follow him, you realize something odd. No one is speaking, not even the creak of the floorboards. The sound seems dampened. He leads you to a small alcove with a strange display. 4 shoes, each from a different decade. A brass plaque. Reads, Legacy Collection, Bicester 1911. That's when you learn the first layer of the story. The store opened in 1911, founded by 2 twin brothers who refused to be photographed. Their names are long forgotten, but the store? It remained. Back then, they sold shoes door to door, whispering their offers to avoid attracting the attention of a larger, louder chain shoe company that dominated the market at the time. One of the whispered legends? That those brothers created the first anti-blister sole using goat hide and honeycomb patterns. Supposedly, it worked so well that local athletes started running barefoot just to avoid wearing other brands. Now here's the thing. Most people don't know. In 1911, shoes were mostly made to break quickly so people would buy more. This shop rebelled. They made shoes that lasted. And some say the government wasn't too pleased. Rumor has it, a regulation quietly passed in 1913 made it harder for small cobblers to source high-quality rubber. Just a coincidence, right? Anyway, the brothers kept to themselves. They wore identical suits, parted their hair on opposite sides, and were only ever seen once together, when a local newspaper caught a blurry photo of them standing behind a row of mannequins. That image hangs, frame cracked, in the hallway, by the storage room, and about that storage room. Legend says it's where they slept, worked, and even ate, all while designing shoes. No music, no talking. Only the sound of scribbled pencil lines, cutting fabric, and soft footsteps. Strangest of all, the store never advertised. No signs, no flyers, just whispers. Customers were told by other customers, passed from mouth to ear like a secret recipe. They'd come looking for arch support and leave with something that felt enchanted. Historians still argue about whether this shop actually existed in multiple locations, or if it was a traveling enterprise that appeared only in towns where silence was respected. Some say the founders were part of an early minimalist movement. Others believe they were simply allergic to noise. You continue down the hallway, the air cool and still. The lights flicker above you, revealing walls lined with worn-out shoe molds, each etched with initials. You trace one with your finger. HR. Date unknown. Then, without warning, the young man in the Oxford stops and presses a button hidden. In the molding, a panel slides open, a whisper escapes. 1911 wasn't the beginning. You look at him, he just smiles, almost, and deeper you go. You follow the young man through the hidden panel, ducking your head slightly as the ceiling lowers. The hallway narrows. The air smells older now, like scorched leather and the back of a filing cabinet that's been closed since Prohibition. You run your fingers along the walls and feel the texture change. Wood gives way to something softer, almost rubbery, then suddenly, carpet. But not the same mossy weave from the front room. This is thicker, darker, and faintly sticky, like it remembers every footstep ever taken across it. You step into a room that shouldn't exist, at least not according to the store's modest footprint. It's round, perfectly round. Shelves line the curved walls, filled not with shoes but with shoeboxes, all wrapped in wax paper, each stamped with a year. One reads 1912, another 1918, the furthest one says 2024, but it's still sealed. The man gestures to the center of the room, where a single chair sits, wooden, cracked. On it, a pair of boots, scuffed, weathered, and resting as if waiting to be remembered. A small brass plate reads, First sale Jan 3, 1911, returned by mail, Oct. 4, 1962. You sit down slowly, the chair groaning beneath you. As you do, he whispers, finally, a word. Listen. And then he leaves. You don't hear his footsteps, but you do hear something else. A voice. Low, careful, like a neighbor confessing in a storm cellar. It says, they wore them to the strike, you know, in Boston. The day the cobblers stopped stitching. You blink. The boots are still there. No speakers, no wires. The room seems to... or maybe it's your blood warming to the story. You lean closer to the boots, and somehow you hear more. It was March 1912. The leather workers in Massachusetts were fed up, literally in some cases. Many couldn't afford the very shoes they crafted. One factory, owned by a rival chain, implemented a rule. Employees must wear only the brand's shoes on site. But the shoes ran small. Intentionally, some whispered. Workers' toes blistered. Arches collapsed and pride was crushed, step by step, so they marched. Hundreds of them wore whatever they could, sandals, mismatched boots, even newspaper wrapped in twine. But a few wore the boots from this store, and those few marched silently. That's the part most people forget. The protest wasn't loud, no chants, no picket signs, just quiet defiance. Boots that didn't squeak, soles that kissed the pavement instead of stomping it. And here's the weird part, no one remembers where those boots were made. Not even the protesters. Some swore they'd bought them from a man who only accepted coins minted in leap years. Others claim the boots were inherited, passed down with no memory of their origin. But one thing was certain, they outlasted the strike. And maybe even the marchers themselves. You stand. The hum fades. You feel a little dizzy, like you've just remembered something that never happened to you. As you turn to leave, you notice a shoebox on the lowest shelf. It's been burned on one side and there's handwriting in pencil along the edge. You kneel and squint. It reads, Never let the tongue speak louder than the soul. A joke? A rule? Hard to say. You leave the round room, back through the narrow corridor. The lights flicker in reverse, the ceiling rises again, and just like that, you're back in the main store. But it feels different now. Quieter, if that's even possible. One of the employees, an older man this time, appears at your side holding a tray. On it sits a pair of shoes, unlike anything you've ever seen, deep navy suede with brass eyelets. Laces wound with what looks like thread from a navy uniform. He doesn't speak, but he mouths something. You think it's, try them. You do. And the moment your feet settle inside, the store shifts, as if recognizing your footsteps. The floor feels warmer. The lights soften. And every sound around you, the rustle of paper, the creak of wood, even your own breath, feels filtered, as though passing through a velvet curtain. That's when you notice the other customers. You hadn't seen them before. They're not speaking, not moving much, just listening. Like you. They nod at you, slowly, and you understand. This isn't just a shoe store. It's a place where footsteps are remembered, echoes are kept, and the loudest thing you can do is whisper. You take a few tentative steps in the navy suede shoes, and for the first time, you understand the phrase, walking on memory. The floor responds, not with sound, but with sensation. Like the store is remembering every footfall, adjusting itself to accommodate yours. Somewhere behind a curtain, a fan hums gently, like a lullaby in Morse code. The older man who handed you the shoes has disappeared. In his place, there's a narrow wooden staircase winding downward. No sign, no rope to block it off, just an unspoken suggestion that if you've made it this far, you might as well go a little further. So, down you go. Each step gives slightly, as though padded underneath, but not soft. More like walking on thick history. The air grows cooler, denser. You begin to hear something unusual. A faint crackling sound, like crumpled newspaper being unfolded slowly, over and over. At the bottom of the stairs, you find yourself in a narrow hallway lined with display cases. Not of shoes, but of materials. Canvas, bark, shredded denim, newspaper clippings. Above each sample is a brass plaque. One says, Wartime Substitute Number 5, Newspaper Sole, 1943. A mannequin foot balances on it, wrapped carefully in yellowing pages from a 1940s sports column. Another reads, Emergency Issue, 1944, Pressboard Loafer, Unworn. Here it is, the forgotten chapter. The moment in American history when shoes were considered too luxurious to waste good materials on. During World War II, leather and rubber were diverted to the military, so civilian footwear had to adapt. Some cobblers gave up, others got weird, and this store? It went very weird. You pause in front of a case, showing what looks like a child's shoe constructed entirely from interwoven wire hangers and silk ribbon. The plaque, prototype only. Ballerina Draft Evader, 1942. You laugh a little, then stop yourself. You're not entirely sure the air down here appreciates laughter. Historians still debate whether the store's founders supplied the military directly. No records confirm it, yet boxes marked for Base 97 have turned up in antique malls, from Nebraska to Maine. And some claim they were smuggling defective boots to soldiers overseas, boots that fell apart in perfect silence, allowing for sneak attacks and soft exits. A risky sabotage, or just bad craftsmanship. The crackling sound returns. You turn and see a wall of old receipts, meticulously pinned. Hundreds of them, each one handwritten, some with little notes in the margin. Customer wept. Only wanted the left shoe. Refused to walk after fitting, and in the middle, framed under glass, is the most peculiar receipt of all. A plain sheet dated December 9th, 1943, with just 3 words. No returns accepted. Next to it, a photograph. Black and white, faded. 3 children in uniforms, standing in front of the shop's exterior, though it looks different, boxier. The signage, still blank. But each child holds a pair of shoes. They're smiling, but their feet, bare. You feel something strange, like a draft coming from inside your own memory. Did someone in your family mention a store like this once? Grandfather? An aunt who talked too much after wine? You brush your fingers along a nearby shelf. It's dusty but warm. And then you see it. A worn booklet titled, How to Sell Shoes Without Speaking. You flip through the pages. Every tip is illustrated with charming little sketches. Smile with your eyes, not your teeth. Linger behind the customers. A. Reflection. Let the laces speak for you. One page near the back has been torn out. You pause there, and suddenly a voice, not from your left or right, but from behind your forehead says, the missing page is under the insole. You instinctively pull off your right shoe. Sure enough, tucked beneath the insole is a tiny slip of paper. Folded 4 times, brittle at the edges. You unfold it slowly. It reads, Make them whisper too. A chill ripples through you. Not of fear, but of initiation. Like you've just joined something without realizing it. You place the slip back carefully and put the shoe back on. Before you leave the hallway of strange materials, you spot one last display. This one is newer, plastic casing, clean lighting. Inside, a modern running shoe, neon orange, sleek, loud-looking. The plaque underneath says, "Returned 3 times. Said they were too loud." You smirk. Can a shoe be loud? You're starting to think. Yes, you felt the difference. As you head back up the stairs, you notice a sign carved faintly into the wood above you. It reads, "Silence has good arch support." Back in the main room, the employees glance toward you, their eyes soft, not questioning, just watching, and you begin to understand. This isn't a store where people come to buy shoes. It's where footsteps come to rest. You've barely made it 2 steps before something tugs at your attention. Not physically, but insistently, like a gentle breeze against your thoughts. To your left, beside a rack of boots arranged by decade, there's a door. You could have sworn it wasn't there before. It's narrow, tall, and covered in green, felt like an old card table. Pinned to it is a brass badge, aged and flaking, with just one word, whisper, no handle, no lock, just pressure. You push, and it swings open without sound. Inside, the light changes. It's tinted amber, like an old photo trying to remember warmth. A narrow corridor lined with employee portraits, except none of them face the camera. Each photograph shows the back of someone's head, neatly dressed, standing motionless before rows of shoes. 1 or 2 appear slightly turned, as if caught just before speaking, but never quite allowed to. The whispering begins here. At first, it's hard to tell if it's real or just the acoustics of the room, a breeze through vents, paper shifting in old files, but the whispers take shape. Don't speak above the laces. The 9th pair always walks itself. A check. The tongue before dawn. It's not creepy exactly. More like overhearing the hallway secrets of a school you didn't know you were enrolled in. At the end of the corridor, you find a long wooden table, set like a dinner banquet, but for one absurd detail. Every place setting is a different size. Of shoe. No food, just shoes arranged with care, each facing inward like they're listening to one another. You count 13 pairs, all scuffed, all used, each with a name card. Some read familiar names, Eleanor, Martin, H.G. Others are stranger. Soft step 8, cricket toe, number 2, 1 to 2. A folded napkin sits at the 14th seat, empty, no shoe. You glance beneath the table, nothing. But you feel like something once sat there, maybe still does. A binder rests on a pedestal nearby, open to a page titled Operational Silence Guidelines, STU to 1957. You skim it. Employees must speak only in tones beneath 28 decibels. Customers should never be startled. Eye contact replaces dialogue when possible. All disagreements must be conducted via handwritten note. You turn the page. Taped to it is a newspaper clipping. Shoe store refuses to sell to yellers, claims noise damages the fit. The photo shows a man, mid-shout, holding a sandal and looking bewildered. The caption reads, "Customer returned after 3 days. Sandal kept walking. No one ever found out where it went." The binder's final page is blank, except for one question at the top. Do your shoes match your volume? You think back. Have you ever tried on shoes quietly, really quietly? Whispered your way through a fitting? You're about to turn and leave when something soft brushes your ear. It's a whisper, not a sentence this time, just a sound, like fabric rubbing against itself. You follow it, even though you're not sure there's anywhere left to go. But sure enough, another door has appeared. This one's smaller, child-sized. Its knob is shaped like a spool of thread. A single, unlit candle rests on a shelf beside it, its wax untouched but smelling faintly of cinnamon and machine oil. You crouch and push open the door. Inside, a radio. One of those old tabletop models, curved like a cathedral, sitting alone, on a red velvet stool. A sign above it reads, "Do not adjust volume, program set since 1957. You sit across from it as the dial glows to life. And then, music. Strange music, something between a lullaby and a jazz funeral. A xylophone drips. lazily over slow, plodding bass notes. And then, softly, a voice. Female, measured, like someone reading bedtime stories to ghosts. Welcome to Shoes and Their Shadows, the program that teaches you how to walk without consequence. Tonight's lesson. When souls have secrets, you. Feel your heartbeat sinking to the rhythm, she continues. In 1957, this very store experienced its first incident of vocal feedback. A new employee, Arthur, age 19, spoke above a whisper while ringing up a pair of slip-ons. The store dimmed, the shoes unraveled. And Arthur? Well, Arthur hasn't spoken since, but his handwriting has improved dramatically. You laugh. Quietly. Of course. The broadcast continues. She tells stories of loafers that only fit during lunar eclipses, of a sandal designed exclusively for espionage, of a flip-flop so well-balanced it once helped a man escape jury duty by running in absolute silence. These aren't facts exactly. They're more like confessions hidden in fashion catalogs. And yet they feel real. Real enough that part of you starts to wonder if your own shoes have ever lied to you. You reach out to adjust the volume, instinctively, and the radio shuts off. A silence heavier than before fills the room. You stand, return to the corridor, and find that the portraits now face forward. Every face is slightly smiling. None are familiar. Except one. Near the end, you lean in. It's you, wearing the navy suede shoes. You haven't taken them off. You step back from the portrait slowly. You stare at it, at yourself. Your clothes are the same faint wrinkle on your collar, the same watch on your wrist, the same hesitant lean in your shoulders like you're not quite sure you belong in the picture. But there's one difference. In the photograph, your eyes are closed. Before you can decide what that means, the lights above flicker once, then hold steady. The corridor feels longer now, as if the building has subtly stretched. While you weren't looking, you glance down at the shoes you're still wearing. The navy suede glows faintly under the warm bulbs, like the light favors them. You walk back toward the main room, but you don't arrive there. Instead, you emerge into a section you haven't seen before. A room shaped like a shoebox turned on. Inside, every wall is lined with mirrors. Not normal mirrors, though. These reflect only your feet. No matter how high you jump or wave or twist, the mirrors show nothing above your ankles. It's like your upper body simply doesn't exist here. You take a step and your mirrored shoes echo it, but not quite in sync. There's a half-second lag, then two, you stop moving. But your reflection takes one more step. You're not alone. In here. In the far corner stands a man in a faded brown suit, hands behind his back. His shoes are impeccable, black leather polished so smooth they look like oil puddles. He's not looking at you, but at the mirror. Or into it. You walk over, cautious. You stand beside him. He doesn't react. And then he whispers, not to you, but to the reflection. Tell them about the silent auctions. You open your mouth to ask, but the air feels thick, like talking would somehow shatter the space around you. Instead, you turn to look at the mirror he's facing. At first, it shows only your shoes, then his. Then, another pair appears between them, thin, faded red with silver buckles, hovering, the whisper again. They were made for the 1965 Hush auction, only one pair, never sold, too quiet. Guests couldn't tell if the model had entered the room. You blink, and the shoes vanish. The man beside you exhales, a tired sound, and begins walking slowly toward a narrow cabinet you hadn't noticed. It's labeled, Failed Concepts, 1950-1972. He opens it, and for the first time, you hear his shoes squeak. The whispering resumes, louder now all around you, like pages turning themselves. You walk to the cabinet. Inside are shelves upon shelves of strange shoes. A slipper with no sole labeled The Concept of Float. Boots, with tiny holes in the heel that whistle when you walk. Anti-shadow steps. A pair of sandals with mirror shards on the straps. To reflect doubt, each one stranger than the last. You pick up a shoe that hums when you hold it, like it remembers every foot it's ever carried. And when you look closely at the insole, there's a note etched inside the leather. For those who walk too far inward, you put it back gently, There's a clipboard hanging on a hook nearby, listing shoe prototypes rejected for being too self-aware. Some were discontinued because they refused to be paired. One, labeled Lefty, was reportedly mailed back 4 times by different customers, each claiming it walked itself home. You turn and see the man again, now seated, polishing a shoe that doesn't appear to be his. You ask, finally, "Were you part of the staff here?" He doesn't look up. He just says, "We all were eventually. The store remembers feet more than names." He sets the shoe down and points to a low door behind you. "Time to see the staircase. It doesn't always appear, but it's waiting tonight." You follow the direction of his hand and find the staircase just where he said. It's made of glass, floating, lit from below like a stage in a dream. You place your foot on the first step and pause, waiting for creak or confirmation. Instead, the whispering hushes all at once, as if holding its breath. You climb. Each step beneath you reflects not your foot, but someone else's. A child's, a soldier's, a barefoot. A heel in a glittering pump. None of them yours, none of them here, and when you reach the top, you see where the staircase leads. A single shoebox. Huge, open, empty. On its side, written in script so elegant it looks embroidered, is a name, your name. You don't remember giving it to anyone. But somehow, it was known. You step inside the box. The walls are lined with cloth, the floor is soft, the air smells like cedar and warm dust. A place built for preservation, for rest, for the part of you that has walked too long and needed somewhere silent to settle. You sit, and just before the box closes, you hear the man's whisper far below. Even footprints get tired. You sit in the shoebox longer than you expect. Maybe longer than you realize. It's not dark inside. It's dim, like the last hour of a sunset stretched out forever. The fabric walls breathe gently. The floor cushions your weight as if it's been waiting for just this. Eventually, you feel it shift. Not the box, but something beneath it. Movement. Subtle. The kind that doesn't jostle your body but slides past your spine. Like being carried on conveyor belts powered by memory. You don't panic. There's nothing alarming about it. It's not travel, it's transfer. A moment later, the wall across from you opens with a soft click. And just like that, you're in a new room. A wide, low space filled with long wooden benches. It smells faintly of chalk and linseed oil. Rows of shoes are lined up against the walls, pairs without owners, yet none of them seem forgotten. Some are tagged with handwritten labels, too polite to squeak. Only worked on Thursdays. Belong to someone who always double-knotted, and then you see the chalkboard. It takes up the entire far wall, coated in diagrams, half-erased sketches, and looping cursive sentences. At the top, underlined in pale blue. Curriculum for Staff Training, revised 1968. You take a seat instinctively. There's no teacher, but something starts anyway. A faint projector hums to life. The air wavers slightly like heat over asphalt. A film begins playing, grainy, black and white, no sound. It shows employees lined up practicing how to walk without making a single noise. One step, pause, another step, eyes always forward, hands clasped gently behind backs. Some wear formal dress, some wear pajamas. One is wearing a scuba suit, for reasons that remain gloriously unexplained. You hear a soft bell ring. Not from the film, but from somewhere deeper in the building. It tolls 3 times. The projector shuts off. From behind the chalkboard, a panel slides open. You walk toward it and find a narrow closet filled with uniforms. Employee aprons, dozens of them, some neatly pressed, others frayed at the edges. All have name tags sewn in. You run your fingers across the names until you stop at one that says, simply, you. You hesitate, and then you put it on. The fabric is heavier than expected. The pockets are shallow. Too shallow to carry anything of consequence, but just large enough to hold a folded note or a single key. In the right pocket, you find neither. But there's something. A small card, the kind you'd find in a library. Catalog drawer, it reads. Training Room 3, Practical Shadow Footsteps. Instructor, silence itself. You don't laugh, you don't even smirk. Because it feels accurate, you follow the signs. They appear now, in soft gold lettering along the walls, as if the store has decided you're ready to be guided. Down another hallway. left past the fire extinguisher painted to look like a boot, through a wooden door with a handle shaped like an ear. Training room 3 is unlike anything you've seen so far. It's entirely carpeted. Walls, ceiling, even the light fixtures are wrapped in velvet. The floor has foot-shaped impressions across it, like a sandbox someone used as a dance floor. At the center of the room, a line of shoes, arranged in a spiral. No explanation, no instruction, just presence. You step forward. The shoes seem to react. Their laces twitch slightly as if breathing. You reach down to touch a pair, sleek black dress shoes with soles thinner than a whisper. The moment your fingers graze them, you hear a voice. Yours, but not from you. It says, "Do not follow the path. Imprint your own." Your heart beats once, loud, audible in this padded world. You begin to walk, slowly, carefully. You avoid the spiral, even as your instincts beg you to trace it. You make new tracks, ones that intersect, ones that double, back. Ones that look, for all intents and purposes, like hesitation, and still the shoes don't judge. One begins to hum slightly, just a tone. In frequency, you match it with your pace. The moment you do, your footsteps begin to vanish behind you, not fade, vanish. As if the room is devouring each one as a thank you for your discretion. This, apparently, is the lesson. You finish the walk. And back where you started. The spiral has unraveled itself. Your path changed it. The shoes all face outward now, like they're waiting to be chosen, or maybe waiting to choose you. You hear a soft snap. A photo has appeared on the wall behind. It's of your shoes mid-step. Beneath it, a label is being printed in real time. Employee unknown, perfect volume, imperfect direction. You smile this time, maybe out loud. You leave the training room with the faintest echo of your own breath trailing behind you. It feels like applause, subtle and polite. Just enough to let you know the store approves. You're starting to understand that this place doesn't teach you anything so much as it remembers what you already forgot. The hallway greets you differently now, lights dimmed lower, air cooler. And down at the end, where the old elevator used to be, there's now a curtain. Deep burgundy, weighted at the bottom with small brass pins shaped like shoehorns. You brush it aside. Behind it is a room filled with what look like museum exhibits, except nothing is labeled. Just rows and rows of pedestals. Each pedestal displays a single shoe, not a pair, never a pair, and each one is dramatically different. A cowboy boot that looks scorched at the toe, a tap shoe with rusted taps, a sneaker whose rubber sole has been carved into the shape of an ear. No plaque, no context. You walk among them, trying to piece together some theme, some order. But the only commonality is this: each shoe seems exhausted, as if it walked something heavy. Not far, not fast, just meaningfully. Then at the very end of the row you see it, a tiny slipper, pale blue, silk unraveling at the edges, clearly handmade and even more clearly, unfinished. No heel, no sole, just the upper, stitched delicately by someone who cared far too much and didn't finish in time. You pick it up, and for the first time in this place, you hear laughter. Not loud, not cruel, just amused. Fond, even. Then a whisper behind your ear. She never finished, because she didn't want to. You turn around, no one's there. You look back at the slipper, and now there's a tag sewn inside the tongue you swear wasn't there a second ago. It reads, "Prototype for walking away." You replace it gently, and the lights above you dim. Again. A spotlight appears to your left, illuminating a wooden door with a phrase carved directly into the grain. Assembly room. Footsteps only beyond this point. You're not entirely sure what that means until you open the door and find a vast chamber beyond. It's filled with shoes. Shoes that move, no people, just shoes. Dozens, maybe hundreds, gliding silently along polished floors in slow, rhythmic patterns. Some walk side by side, some solo, some in tight spirals or wide figure eights. None crash, none trip. It's like watching an orchestra of invisible pedestrians playing a ballet of absence. You step in and immediately feel the rules shift. You must move. Standing still feels unnatural, almost disrespectful, so you do. You begin walking, and as you walk, a pair of shoes joins you, not from your feet, from beside you. A pair of tall leather boots, finely aged, step in perfect sync with yours. You glance down. They are unlaced, no one inside them. But they walk with you as if they remember your rhythm from somewhere you haven't been yet. You say nothing. After a while, they peel off and join another group of shoes looping. Gracefully around a column, you keep walking, 1 lap, 2. On the 3rd, you notice a small door labeled Records and Missteps. Inside is a dark room filled with filing cabinets, all labeled with years. You pull open 1984, expecting paper. What you find instead is a pair of rain boots sitting atop a single folded document. You unfold it. It's a letter. Dear Management, I regret to inform you that I can no longer whisper while walking. My thoughts are too loud. I apologize for the disturbance. Sincerely, the last intern you replaced the letter. You realize with sudden clarity that this is a registry of mistakes. Every misstep, every stumble, every loud tread. Each one catalogued, forgiven, but never erased. You open another drawer. 2001. This time, inside. A pair of running shoes filled with sand. The note beneath says only, he ran too fast to listen, we. Step back into the assembly room and watch the shoes continue their dance. You feel a pang of envy. They're lighter than you, freer, somehow. Untethered from the weight of needing to know where they're going, and yet they never seem lost. One pair stops beside you. Sandals, worn smooth. The left one tilts forward, invitingly. You don't step in, but you nod. And the sandals nod back, or so it seems. You walk out. At the exit, there's a bench. No plaque. No whisper. Just a note on the seat. If you walked in a circle and called it progress, that still counts. You sit. The navy suede shoes on your feet flex slightly, as if stretching after a long shift. And somewhere above, unseen, maybe from the radio room, maybe from the walls themselves, a soft voice chuckles and says, "Good, you're ready for the archives." The bench creaks beneath you, not in protest, but like it's adjusting to your weight in a familiar way. You lean back, let the silence press in a little. Then, just as the suede shoes on your feet begin to settle into stillness, a panel on the wall beside you sighs open with a breath of dust. Behind it, a staircase, stone, spiraling downward in a way that's mathematically inconvenient. Not elegant, not symmetrical, just determined. Like it was carved one step at a time by someone who didn't know what stairs were supposed to look like, only what they felt like. A sign at the top reads, "Archives, for those with quiet questions." You begin the descent. The light dims with each step, but never disappears. A faint golden glow hums from the stone itself, like every pebble contains a flicker of something remembered. About 20 steps in, the air changes, cooler, more intimate. You can smell paper now, old ink, dried glue, maybe even wax. You smell age. At the bottom, the stairs spill you gently into a room the size of a chapel. But instead of pews, there are card catalogues, miles of them, low cabinets with brass, handles and handwritten labels, arranged in quiet labyrinths. No signage, no aisles, just drawers, drawers, drawers. In the center stands a woman, elderly maybe, or maybe ageless. She's polishing a single black shoe with a cloth that seems too soft to be real. She doesn't look up. She says, "Whose walk are you tracing?" You don't answer right away, because how do you answer that? Are you tracing the store's story? Or the story of shoes that walked away from history? Or maybe, just maybe, your own? So you ask her, "Is there a file for first footsteps?" She smiles at the shoe. Not at you. But that's good enough. "Drawer E17, she whispers, and disappears behind a shelf. You wander until you find it. Drawer E17 is rusted, resistant. You tug gently. It gives. Inside, a single photograph curled at the edges, showing a footprint in fresh cement. Beneath it, written in fountain pen, "First visitor to open the store before the owners arrived, July 11th, 1923. She left a note. They never found her. The print remains. You stare at the image, The footprint is small, bare, deeply pressed. Whoever she was, she walked like she meant it. Behind you, the shelves shift. No footsteps, just repositioning. As if the store is rearranging itself now that you've asked your first real question. A nearby drawer pops open. You glance inside. A toe tag, yes. A literal toe tag, like one from a morgue. Tied not to a body, but to a single baby shoe, the tag reads. The pair that outgrew its owner, returned anonymously. 1949. They still squeak when lonely. You close the drawer gently, almost apologetically. You wander deeper into the archives, where shelves curve upward like ribs around a giant heart. One cabinet draws your attention because of the sound it makes, a tiny ticking. You pull it open and find a shoelace coiled tightly inside a pocket watch case. A slip of paper beside it says, "Used to belong to a man who walked in perfect time with every clock he passed. Lost it. Now he's always late. You pocket nothing, but you memorize everything." Farther in, you find a velvet-covered file titled, "Shoes That Knew Too Much." Inside are sketches of bizarre prototypes. One pair had Morse code stitched into the insole. Another was rumored to trigger memories not your own. A third contained an entire map, viewable only if the wearer spun in slow circles during dusk. Historians still argue whether these were real or just clever marketing by a rival chain. But several of the designs include tiny notations in the margins. Do not sell to those with dreams. Refuse to walk backward. Attempted escape, and then you find it. A narrow drawer with a tag that simply says, "Yours." You open it slowly. Inside is a single receipt. Yellowed, handwritten, dated today. Item, 1 pair, navy suede, silent arch, signed in thought. Cost, 1 quiet truth. And just below that, scribbled in graphite. You haven't spoken in hours. Have you? You hadn't noticed. But no, you haven't. You press your hand to the drawer. It's warm. And beneath your fingertips, you feel the tiniest pulse, like the store's heartbeat. Or maybe your own, syncing with something older than memory. You turn around. The woman is back. She nods at you. "You'll want to see the delivery. Room next," she says softly. Where returned shoes go to tell their stories, you follow. The archives dim behind you, but nothing feels lost, not anymore. The woman leads you without touching you, her footsteps silent, even against the stone floor, as if she's hovering just slightly above it. You follow her through a narrow hallway carved from pale wood, sanded smooth, edges rounded like the inside of a worn jewelry box. At the end is a large, rounded doorway. Above it, etched in looping cursive, reads, "Returns and regrets, processing and listening." The woman doesn't follow you in. She just whispers, "Some shoes are louder when they come back." You step through the arch. The room is quiet, yes, but in that specific way that makes you aware of every breath you've ever taken. The walls are lined with tall shelves. Floor to ceiling, each holding rows of small wooden crates. Some are sealed, others cracked open slightly, their lids askew like a conversation cut short. In the center of the room, a circular desk. Behind it sits a man with a pencil tucked behind one ear and another behind the other ear, as if he keeps forgetting where he left the first one. He's flipping through a bound ledger the size of a coffee table. He looks up at you, squints, and grins. "Oh, good. Finally someone from the living department," he says, voice gravelly and warm. He gestures toward a low bench. You sit, mostly because your legs feel like they need a moment to catch up to everything your mind's processing. He points to a crate behind him. The tag reads, May 17th, 1971. Refuse to stay gone. He lifts the lid and shows you the contents. A single hiking boot, well worn and deeply scratched. A note lies beneath it. You lean forward and read. Returned by mail. Box was nailed shut. No sender listed. Smelled of pine and static. The man chuckles. That one still tries to leave. Every solstice. You ask, so people really send them back? He shrugs. Some do. Some disappear and find their way here anyway. Some come crawling in, literally. We had a stiletto show up once, mud-covered, heel broken, missing its match. Said nothing. The whole time, just leaned against the door until we let it in. You don't ask how a shoe says nothing. At this point, that's the least strange detail. He hands you a small, cloth-bound book. "Read this," he says. It's what the shoes told us when they came back. The book's title is handwritten, Apologies from the Arch. You open it to a random page and read, "I never should have walked out of that interview. It wasn't worth all the dancing I did in him. She only wore me to the airport, but I carried every goodbye. I'm sorry I kept the gravel. The entries go on, page after page. Not in one voice, but many, male, female, neither. Some poetic, some crude. One simply reads, 'The socks lied.' You close the book slowly, holding it like something delicate. Like, it might melt or vanish if you held it too tight. The man's looking at your shoes now. The navy suede ones. 'They're not from us, you know,' he says casually, as if commenting on the weather. You look down. The suede shimmers faintly as if embarrassed. 'They're older,' he continues. 'Much older. But they're watching. They've been passed down, chosen, not sold.' You ask, 'Then why did they fit me?' He leans back, lets out a long, quiet breath. 'Because you stopped asking for directions a while ago. Most people walk through life like they're waiting for someone to tell them when it's okay to take the next step. You didn't. You sit with that, not because you're proud, but because it feels true.' Behind him, a bell dings. A small hatch in the wall swings open. A box slides out, slowly, like it's unsure of its welcome. He retrieves it and sets it. 'Between you. No label,' he says. 'You should open it.' The box is cool to the touch, wood but lighter than it looks. Inside, a pair of children's shoes, tiny, untied, scuffed at the toes, but one of the tongues has writing in faded ink. Last pair before she stopped growing. You swallow. He says nothing. Because really, what is there to say? You close the box gently, and the man nods. 'Thanks, some shoes just need to be seen again.' You rise. The man gestures toward a tall, dark hallway behind the desk. Storage is that way. Quiet mostly. You'll want to take your time. There's a pair in there that remembers you. You ask, 'From when?' He just smiles. 'That's their story to tell.' As you walk toward the hallway, the lights dim slightly. The navy suede shoes move with confidence now, not dragging, not hesitant. They've found the rhythm, and so have you. The hallway behind the returns desk doesn't begin so much as it accepts you. No grand doorway, no footsteps echoing, just a shift in texture beneath your soles, like the floor has softened to welcome your particular weight. The air is warmer, here, dustier, with a scent like cinnamon bark and forgotten upholstery, something between a grandfather's attic and the inside of a hope chest. You move forward slowly, past rows of wooden doors, each painted the color of something no longer made. Mustard typewriter yellow, ashtray green, transistor brown. You stop at one marked Storage Room D, Matchless Inventory. There's a dial instead of a knob, like a combination lock. But the numbers are nonsense. Symbols, tiny shoes, scribbles that feel more like emotions than characters. You don't turn it. You just put your hand on the door. It opens anyway. Inside, row after row of single shoes. No pairs. Some lined up neatly. Others tilted as if they slumped the moment they were left alone. You realize quickly, this isn't about neglect. This is about memory without closure. The room feels sacred, like a sanctuary for everything unfinished. You walk slowly, a woman's flat with a crushed toe, a child's rain boot with the name Jordan written in Sharpie across the ankle, a high-heeled shoe violently glittered over, a single cleat. You hear whispers, not voices now, but steps, echoes of movement, what these shoes remember. You stop at a worn slipper with floral stitching and a ribbon that has nearly faded to dust. Something about it tugs at you. Beneath it is a note, handwritten, in precise cursive. I wore this when I told him I wasn't coming back. The other one stayed on the bus. You feel that in your ribs. You sit beside it on the floor. The suede shoes on your feet flex slightly, not in discomfort, but like they're shifting to accommodate your pause. And then, from deeper in the shelves, a sound. Soft shuffling, a pair of shoes, black canvas, midsoles frayed, laces uneven, emerge, walking without feet inside them. They approach you cautiously, like a stray animal curious but wary. You feel something stir, Not fear, recognition. You reach out. They pause. And then, just as your fingers brush the edge of one sole, you remember. You had a pair like this. Years ago. Maybe middle school. The kind you wore until your heel poked through the rubber. The kind that held notes in the tongue. The kind you wrote a name in with whiteout across the toe. Not your own name. Someone else's. You gasp softly, and the shoes turn around, walking slowly back into the stacks, as if satisfied you remembered. You rise. And now, the lights above you pulse once, just once, as if acknowledging the moment. Near the back of the room, a small alcove is lit by a single lamp. A shoebox sits on a velvet pedestal. The card beside it says, "For return to future self, not yet due." You don't open it. Some things aren't ready. Instead, you walk on, deeper still. You come to another door, this one curved like a carriage window. It opens into a small room, round, dome-like. Lined floor to ceiling with shoe lasts, those foot-shaped molds used in shoemaking. Hundreds, each marked with initials and dates. Some are tiny, others improbably large. One, directly at eye level, is labeled with your initials. You don't remember giving them, but your hand fits the smooth shape of the last exactly. A plaque beside it reads, "Footsteps planned but never taken." And underneath, in faint script, "It's not too late. 2. You exhale slowly. Something loosens in your chest, and from somewhere distant but clear, you hear a soft radio voice, female, soothing. "Tonight's segment, the shoes that waited patiently." The lights dim, then brighten. An invitation. It's time to leave this room. As you exit, you pass a mirror, not one that shows your face. It only shows your shoes. They look exactly the same, but older now, more lived in. Like they've walked a secret path you haven't consciously followed, but trusted anyway. And just before the next door opens, a small voice. Not from the wall, not from a speaker, but maybe from within. Whispers, "Don't worry. The path knows you." You press forward, through a narrow hallway that seems to taper as you move, like the store is gently nudging you inward, not physically, but emotionally. With every step, the lighting becomes softer, diffused like sunlight through old curtains. The air hums with a subtle vibration, as if the very walls are tuned to your pace. You step through a new threshold. There's no door, no handle, just a moment where one room ends and another quietly begins. This space is darker, quieter, but not empty. Rows of low shelves form a spiral, drawing your gaze inward like a gentle whirlpool. Each shelf contains a single item, an envelope resting atop a folded piece of cloth. You realize they're shoeshine rags, most of them stained, worn thin, but carefully folded with something close to reverence. A sign above the shelves reads, "Correspondence. Customer complaints that changed us." You take a seat on a short stool nearby, the kind found in dressing rooms from a decade that no longer has advocates. The spiral pulls you in, not literally but emotionally, and you begin to read. Each envelope is marked with a name, a date, and one of 2 stamps, heard or misplaced. You choose one marked heard. The letter is dated June 22nd, 1966. "Dear Whisper Staff, I wore your shoes to my father's funeral because they were the only ones that didn't make a sound when I walked. I didn't want to be the reason someone else cried louder. Thank you." There's no signature. You try one marked misplaced. October 12th, 1980. "I bought the size you told me to. They fit, but they made me remember too much. I left them by the river. I hope that was okay." Below the note, scribbled in a different hand, "We retrieved them. They were listening." You sit in the hush of it all. This room isn't about footwear, it's about what walks inside the shoes. Grief, regret, hope, memory. You look up and notice something you missed before, a wall-mounted display of shoelaces, all different colors, materials, some frayed, some curled into tidy spirals. A small bronze plaque beneath it reads, "The ties that held too tightly." You step closer. Each lace is tagged with a phrase. First date, final walkout. He said they were lucky. Didn't get to say goodbye. Some laces are tied into knots, others dangle loose. A few are missing entirely, only their brass labels left behind like gravestones with no bodies. In the corner of the room, there's a tall mirror, but this one does show your full reflection. At first. Then slowly, it fades everything except your shoes. And around your feet, little ghostly footprints appear, child-sized, then elderly, then mismatched, then a single high heel. They fade in and out like memories visiting briefly, respectfully. A whisper, so faint it might be imagined, drifts from somewhere just behind your right shoulder. You've worn more than you remember. You turn. Nothing. And yet, everything. You step away from the mirror and walk deeper toward the center of the spiral. The innermost shelf holds just one object, a sealed black box. No labels, no stamps, just an embossed phrase on the lid, "If you had walked another way." You reach for it, but the moment your fingers touch the surface, the box glides back an inch, as if not quite ready to be opened. A tiny drawer beneath it slides open instead. Inside, a small note written in longhand script. Choices aren't shoes, you don't only get one. Sometimes you walk a path just to learn how it felt. The real destination's always behind you. You smile. Not because you understand it completely, but because it feels like something you will understand one day. A soft bell rings, one chime, no urgency, just notification. The wall ahead parts. Behind it, a curved wooden hallway bathed in golden light. A sign above the entrance reads, "Reorientation, fitting room for who you are now." The suede shoes on your feet shift again, just a little tighter. Not restrictive, more like they're making sure you're still present. You step into the light. The curved wooden hallway wraps around you like a theater curtain drawn halfway shut. Light seeps in from above, buttery and warm, casting soft arcs on the floor that mimic your steps before you even take them. You feel taller here, not because the space demands it, but because it offers the suggestion you've earned this part of the journey. At the end of the hall, a single changing room. The kind you'd find in a department store frozen in the amber of 1962. The curtain is heavy, velvet, a deep navy that almost matches the shoes on your feet. Almost above the curtain, embossed in fading brass, is a phrase, "Fitting room," for who you are now. You hesitate. But the shoes guide you forward, not a push, a lean, a gentle shift in your center of gravity that tells you don't need to be someone new, just someone truer. You step inside, there's no mirror, just a bench, a hanging light bulb, and a shoebox sitting squarely in the center of the floor. This one has your name on it, handwritten, smudged at the corners, as if someone wrote it with certainty, but in a hurry. You sit. The bench sighs. So do you, the shoebox isn't sealed. You lift the lid. Inside, not shoes, not really. Inside is everything you've walked through, the shoes you wore when you quit that job, when you didn't speak up, when you did, the ones you threw away, the ones you kept even after they stopped being comfortable, the ones that carried you out of a bad apartment, the ones that tapped nervously under a table while waiting for a doctor's results, a dance floor, a stairwell, a funeral, a kiss. Not the shoes themselves, just the presence of those steps, captured, catalogued, offered back to you for fitting. On the underside of the box lid, you notice a handwritten note. Try again. This time, walk like you're not apologizing. You look down at your current shoes, the navy suede, still elegant, still soundless. But now you notice, one of the eyelets has come undone, the laces have loosened, the shoes are waiting. You take them off, you place them inside the box, not because you're finished, but because you understand. They were part of a chapter, not the whole book, and beneath them, folded carefully, is a new pair. You pause. They're not flashy, not old. Not new, just yours. Low-profile sneakers, a little worn, not perfect. But they look ready. You slip them on. They don't whisper. They breathe. A soft exhale around your ankles. A sense of welcome. You stand. There's no mirror still. But the bench is gone. The shoebox is closed. The curtain parts without you touching it. Outside, the hallway is the same, but you aren't. Not entirely. You walk. And with every step, you feel something shift. Not in the ground, but in the air around. You wait, like the world is adjusting to your new rhythm. Not faster, not louder, just honest. You arrive at a long corridor lined with photographs. Unlike the earlier ones, these faces are looking directly at the lens, calm, peaceful. A few are even. Smiling, beneath each one is a single caption. Finally learned to walk away. Spoke softer, felt louder. Didn't wait for permission. Took the scenic route. Stepped barefoot into her own life. At the very end, a blank frame. You know without asking, it's yours. You don't need to fill it now, just keep walking. The lights above flicker once. Not from power failure, from reverence. And somewhere behind you, maybe in the walls, maybe in the floor, maybe inside the box you left behind, you hear it again. You fit now. You walk away from the frame, not looking back. Not because you're avoiding it, but because you know it's still forming. Like wet cement waiting to be carved by the footsteps you haven't taken yet. The hallway narrows again, gently. Enough to make you aware of your breath, your posture. You feel the fabric of your clothes, the curve of your spine, the soft pressure of your new shoes, molding themselves not to your feet but to the way you move. At the end of the corridor, a door. It's open already. Beyond it, an enormous room with a vaulted ceiling stained in warm golden tones. The air has changed again. Now it smells like linseed oil, saddle soap and something else. Paper and anticipation. A sign above the doorway reads, "The Workshop, where the walk begins again." You step in. The room hums, not with machinery, but with attention. You feel watched, but not judged. Observed like a craftsman watches wood grain, like a tailor watching how a jacket falls on someone's shoulders. There are workbenches scattered across the space, none of them identical. Some have sketches pinned to corkboards, rudimentary outlines of shoes with cryptic notes. For morning that isn't yours. Designed to remember how grass feels. Fit for standing ground even when shaking. One bench has a pair of tools laid out in a row, an awl, a stitcher, a tiny mallet, and a set of tweezers curved like question marks. There's no one behind the bench, and yet you feel invited. On a pegboard nearby, shoes in various stages of assembly hang like works of art. Some have only one heel, some are entirely upside down. A label beneath the display reads, "In progress, please do not define yet." You run your hand across one and feel heat, like memory still setting into place. Then, a quiet sound. Click, click, click. A slow rhythm from the far end of the room. You follow it. There, at a long drafting table lit by a single desk lamp, sits a man with snow-colored hair and fingers that move like they've done this for years beyond counting. He's assembling a shoe, piece by piece, stitching with thread so fine it might as well be light. He doesn't look up, but he speaks. "Shoes don't carry people," he says. "People carry meaning. The shoes just learn to go quiet about it. You. Say nothing. You know better now." He gestures toward a side table. A notebook lies open, blank. Beside it, a single pen with a soft grip, worn down at the edges from use. He says, "Design something for who you might become, not for who you were." You sit, you hesitate, and then you begin to draw. Not because you know how, but because the story's already there. You sketch a shape that feels like motion. Laces that don't tie but trust. A soul that flexes like a question mark. You add texture you've never seen in real life but have felt somewhere, maybe in a dream. When you're done, you look up. He's gone. The desk lamp is off, but a new tag has appeared next to your sketch. In prototype, awaiting belief. You stand, you walk, and the room seems to move with you, not following, not leading. Just parallel, like a dance partner who knows every beat of your hesitation. At the exit, a doorway framed in wood darker than anything else in the building. There's no sign above it, just a shoebox. Sitting quietly on the floor, you pick it up. It's empty, but it's shaped like it's waiting. A small card is taped to the lid. In ink that looks a lot like your own handwriting, it says, "You'll know what goes here when it happens." You tuck it under your arm, and you step through. You step through the doorway, carrying the empty shoebox like it's something sacred, which, by now, it is. The corridor that follows is unlike any you've walked so far. Not quiet, not solemn, alive. The walls hum gently, not with lights or voices, but with motion. They flicker faintly, like shoelaces flapping in wind, like old vinyl crackle. As you walk, faint projections dance along the walls, looping footage of people walking, not posed, not stylized, just walking. A woman pacing as she rehearses an apology she'll never give. A kid hopping from tile to tile in a supermarket, avoiding the cracks. An elderly man holding a paper bag full of oranges, one shoe scuffed nearly flat. A teenager running just slightly too late. A pair of feet dancing, nervously at a wedding. A silhouette limping away from something they chose not to explain. The projection blurs. And then, for a moment, you see yourself, from behind. Walking. Not this moment. Not these shoes. But the version of you that once hesitated at the top of a stairwell, unsure of whether to leave or stay. The walls fade to stillness. You reach a landing. The space here is open air. Sky above, not painted, not digital, but real. Stars scattered like breadcrumbs leading toward whatever comes next. The air smells like night itself. Cold pavement, warm dust, distant rain. A sign leans crookedly against the railing. Exit, but not an ending. You sit on the edge of a low stone wall, the shoebox is still under your arm, and then you hear them. Footsteps, all around you, but not from people you can see. The sound is low, soft, layered. The kind of sound that you don't hear with your ears but with your chest. Hundreds, thousands, walking, stumbling, dancing, returning. Some are familiar. You'd swear you recognize the exact cadence of your mother's church heels, the crunch of your grandfather's hiking boots over gravel. The squeak of sneakers you once begged for and wore only twice. And then you hear your own, past versions of you. Footsteps from roads you took without a map. Footsteps from places you swore you'd never go back to. Footsteps from walks that never got a goodbye. The sound builds, but never overwhelms. It surrounds you like warmth. You close your eyes, and you feel it. Not nostalgia, not sadness, recognition. Everything you've walked through has walked with you. Every blister became a blueprint, every worn sole a signature. You open your eyes and notice something you didn't before. A path, stone, curved, leading away from the wall. It's not lit. It doesn't need to be. You already know the way. Before you take your next step, you open the shoebox again. Inside, something has appeared. Not shoes, a note, simple. Walk like you've been here before, because you have. You smile, slip the lid closed, and begin walking. One step, then another. Not afraid, not waiting, just forward. The path curves gently into the dark, not menacing but mysterious, like the start of a memory you haven't recalled in full. There are no signs now, no labels, no whispered rules. Just you, and the shoes, and the quiet. But it's a different kind of quiet. Not the fragile silence of tiptoeing, the grounded silence of belonging. You walk without counting steps. The road beneath you is a soft stone, aged maybe, or just well walked. It shifts underfoot, not to resist you, but to receive you. Your shoes, the ones that waited in that fitting room like loyal ideas, respond to every movement with an almost invisible nod. Yes, they seem to say. Like that. Above, stars remain. Unchanging. Indifferent, but present. As the path turns once more, you see it ahead. A final room, small, simple. A warm glow leaks from its doorway like honey dripped along the edges of a bedtime story. You step inside. It's a single room. A waiting room, perhaps. A lounge, maybe. One chair, one rug, a table. And against the far wall, a small machine that hums softly, like an old slide projector or a memory trying to stay sharp. The walls are lined with shelves, but unlike before, there are no shoes. Only shoeboxes, closed, uniform in shape, wildly, diverse in surface. Some wrapped in leather, some stitched from canvas, one made entirely from laminated receipts. Some are soft, some are rigid. One is covered in stickers that read things like, "You did your best" and "Walked away proud" in faded fonts. In the center of the room, a single pedestal. Upon it sits a box you recognize. Yours. The one you carried here. The one you filled with nothing but possibility. You place it gently on the pedestal. A click echoes. The lid opens on its own. Inside, the shoes, the navy suede ones, returned, rested, waiting. They don't ask to be worn. They simply exist. A chapter, a testament. You nod, not to them, but to what they meant, and that's when the final machine activates. It projects not images, but footsteps. Tiny light prints, luminous and slow, tracing patterns across the floor in soft arcs and elegant pivots. Footprints that shimmer, fade, reappear, telling a story without ever needing to speak. Yours. Your first unsure step in that forgotten hallway behind the donut shop. The spiral walk in training room 3. The moment your reflection showed, only your shoes, that quiet breath on the bench in returns. The sketch you left behind in the workshop. The footprints play on repeat, and then slowly they begin to fade. Not vanish, fade like they've done their part. You sit in the chair. It accepts your weight like an old friend. The lights dim, the hum slows. You close your eyes, and the final whisper comes. Not from the walls, not from your shoes, not even from your memory, but from the silence that remembers you back. You walked well. You whispered loudly. You belonged more than you knew, and you'll walk again when the shoes are ready. The final lights flicker. Once, like a wink. Then dusk. Then darkness. Then peace. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan. For that soft background hum. Let the weight leave your shoulders. Let the noise fall away, and know, somewhere out there, your footsteps have already been invited back.